You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you so much for joining me today on our first house call of the weekend. We're about to get started answering our community's questions, all things wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging. And as you'll see today by the questions, everything in between that. So really looking forward, as always, as I talk about on all the previous Cabral house calls, this is one of my favorite times of the week to be able to really reach out into the community, look at the questions. I'll be giving seminars or talks, and at the end, I open it up to questions. And one of the things that people are allowed to say is like, hey, I have this going on, this going on, this going on. And they ask me these questions, and it's very similar to what I'm doing here. But the nice thing is that I don't have to be, traveling all around the world and being at different events and leaving my family. I can actually just sit in the comfort of my own office, looking out my window into Boston and being able to answer all these great questions. So really appreciate our community and appreciate all the questions that come in each and every week. So without further ado, because I know we have a backup on questions, we're going to get right into today's first question. Today's first question is from Elizabeth. She's writing in, "Hi, Stephen. I have a friend who is a family member suffering from corticobasal degeneration. Understand it's a rare disease and wondered if you have any experience with the treatment of this or if it's possible to be treated. Similar to yourself, I believe everything can be treated or reversed, but I'm not familiar with CBD. Thanks for all you do and inspiring others to better health." All right. Thank you, Elizabeth, being a great friend and family member writing in. So corticobasal degeneration, I think it's also referred to as corticobasal ganglionic degeneration. Essentially, this is something where it's a neurodegenerative disease that starts to break down what's called the cerebral cortex or the basal ganglia. And usually it's not till later in life, somewhere in your 50s, 60s, 70s. And it's a degenerative disease, which means over a period of 5 years to 10 years or so, people get this brain atrophy and eventually pass from it. So here's the thing, though. Have I worked with a lot of people with this? No. But what I don't like to do is, so people ask me, have you ever treated this? Like, first of all, I don't treat anything. What I do is I look at all the underlying causes that would cause something like corticobasal degeneration. And I look at all the causes that might cause high cholesterol or high blood pressure or diabetes or any of these things. And I say, what are the underlying root causes that are imbalanced that if I were to fix those, the outward symptoms or dis-ease of the body would then go away. And that's what I do. So it doesn't matter what you have for a disease. All I do is look at all the different things. So this person, I would run my big 5 lab tests, right? I would run literally the omega-3 test to look for inflammation. I would run the organic acids test to look at gut function. I would look at the thyroid, the cortisol, all of those levels to look at hormone function. I would look at the hair tissue mineral analysis to look at heavy metals as well as overall mineral depletion or stress on the autonomic nervous system. And then I would also run a food sensitivity test, and if optional, if they wanted to run a stool test. Now, that would be everything. Okay, that's a big one. But if they didn't want to run all that, well, what would I do? Well, I would at least start with some natural anti-inflammatories. I've done podcasts on natural anti-inflammatories. You're welcome to look those up, but they are ginger, boswellia, omega-3s, like our omega-3 support. I would look into our CBD oil, which is organically grown. That's probably the first thing I would use. The second thing I would use is absolutely omega-3 support. And I would use that at higher dosages, at least 3 capsules per day. Then I would definitely be using ginger, and I would be using other things like turmeric, so some type of higher curcumin-based product. Why don't we link all these things up in the show notes for you today, Elizabeth? My opinion is always to test if you can. And the reason is that you want to figure out exactly what to do. Should you do a heavy metal detox? Probably. Right? Should you do some type of gut repair? Probably. But there's so much you could do by lab testing that tells you what you need to do. That's the difference. So much that you could do in life, but what do you need to do to start to rebalance the body? That's exactly what I would do, Elizabeth. Hopefully that helps. Rachel's up next. Rachel's asking, "Good morning, Dr. Cabral. My name is Rachel, and I'm located in Queensland, Australia. I have listened to your podcast with Melissa Ambrosini, and your words spoke to me. I would love to know if you take online clients from Australia. I'm also extremely interested in if you offer any nutrition training. I'm looking to start my course very soon and would love to be able to take part in any training that you offer, as I really understanding the concept of what is best when it comes to health is individual for everybody. Any information you could give me would be greatly appreciated, even if you can suggest a training course that would complete that you would suggest. Okay, so Rachel, I've recommended some courses in the past. I recommend obviously studying Ayurveda and the textbooks of Ayurveda. If you go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and you type in Ayurveda or Ayurvedic book, you will find my recommendations on Ayurveda for bioindividuality. I just did a huge deep dive on stephencabral.com/763. That was yesterday's show. That was 25 books that I read over the course of February and a lot of bioindividuality in that. Today is episode 764. Go to stephencabral.com/764. On that page, you're going to be able to follow along with all the questions for today. And you're also going to be able to follow along with all of the links, like Elizabeth. I just gave Elizabeth the Big 5 labs, and I gave Elizabeth omega-3 and CBD and all those great things. So that's where I'm recommending that you go today is stephencabral.com/764. That's exactly where I would go. All right, Rachel, I'm actually going to create a certification. Why? I had never an intention of creating certification, but all I'm trying to do is listen to what you want, like what our community wants. And they say, I want something based on bioindividuality. I don't know any program out there right now that's teaching bioindividuality and a foundational based program, meaning like, what do you need to do for every single person that you meet with? And then how do you add bioindividuality into that? That's what I do in my practice. I honestly believe that we get the best results in the world. I really do believe that. I would not say that. There's no ego involved. It's just the truth. Do I think other practitioners could get the same results as me? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. As good as it gets, right? But there's other people at that level too. I really believe that. So I'm not saying I'm the only one. I just believe that anybody who walks into my practice that I can help. That's the belief that I start with. And if they're willing to do the work, now, of course, everyone has to be willing to do the work, that I believe they can turn their life around. I really believe that. So in the future, I'm hoping later this year that I will have a certification for, I'm going to develop actually a level 1, level 2, and level 3 practitioner certification for your average person with zero experience or health coaches, nutritionists, RDs, etc., who want to go on to level 3. And yes, I work with at least one new person a week from Australia. I mean, I'll tell you, love the Australian culture, love New Zealand, and I can't wait to be able to not only go over there and let my family experience the culture and myself as well, of course, but be able to do a seminar over there too. So can't wait for that. And yes, by Skype video, we work with people all over the world. So I do hope that works. All right. Up next, Katie and Suzanne. Both of your questions basically are asking, hi there, I'm in Australia and would love to have a consultation with you. As your story and you sound like the right person that might be able to help me get well, do you do Skype or do you need to be living in America? And Katie and Suzanne, I work with people from Australia, like I said in my last question, every single week in my practice. And now at stephencabral.com/store, anything you see there, meaning like every lab test except the stool test, because it can't get shipped back in time. Every lab test we're able to ship to Australia, and all nutritional supplements and everything that you could possibly need as well. So yes, all you have to do for consultations, if you're interested, you just have to email support@stephencabral.com, or for everything today, go to stephencabral.com/764. We'll put the application link in there. Just keep in mind, you do not feel like you need to work with me. Okay, this is important for me to say, and then I'll move on to the next question. I am booked about 2 months in advance. Okay, yes, sometimes we get a cancellation last minute and we're able to fit people in. So we have a little bit of a waiting list. I'm booking now about 2 months in advance. Here's the thing though. If you work with one of my amazing health coaches, I've personally certified them, meaning like they came in as a registered dietitian, they came in already as a certified health coach, whatever it might be, and then I certified them in my style of training essentially. They're the first. After that, every time you run a lab test or they want to give you a recommendation, I approve that. I say, yes, run these labs. And then I actually review your labs and I review your plan, all of your recommendations. So even if you don't work with me, you can work with one of my health coaches. So just check off yes on the application. Are you willing to work with one of my health coaches? If we feel that it's applicable, meaning like if you don't need to work with me, are you able to work with the health coach? I'll give that recommendation as well. And if you check yes, it's essentially half the price. And you still get my recommendations. We just don't do the calls together. So it's a better way for people who want to spend a little less money or spend more on the lab test rather than speaking with me. That's a great way to do it. And you still get my recommendations. And you don't have a 2-month wait time. So feel free to whatever works for you. again, like the bottom line is this. We're just trying to help people. So let us know how we can help. And then, of course, at the same time, let's say you don't even want to do the consultations. You can actually purchase a lab test at stephencabral.com/store or any of the show notes pages. And then with that comes an automatic 30-minute consultation. And if you purchase 2 labs, an automatic 60-minute consultation where I've already reviewed those labs. I give my recommendations, and then you speak with the health coach. That's how all of our lab testing works. I mean, really, I believe that this is as cutting edge as possible. This is true state-of-the-art medicine, and we're just trying to bring it to the forefront. And so I love what we're doing. I really do. I love where our practice is heading, and this is what I hope to teach other practitioners in the future, because you're able to work with people all over the world. I mean, literally all over the world. It's amazing. It's just great work, and I'm really, really happy every day that I'm able to do this, and same with my entire team. All right, Danielle is up next. What's Danielle asking? She's asking, hello, I would really appreciate your advice on post-pregnancy iron deficiency anemia. Also, what are your thoughts on blackstrap molasses as a natural cure treatment? Many thanks, Danielle. Okay, so Danielle, I actually covered this topic. It's all covered on a show called How to Have a Healthy Pregnancy and How to Get Iron from Natural Foods. So we'll try to link that up in the show notes. How to have a healthy pregnancy, and then natural iron-based foods, both vegan-based and paleo-based as well. We'll link those up. So what do I think about blackstrap molasses? I think it's great. It is a nice source of iron. It's a high source, super high source of minerals, and a very high source of potassium. So because of that, wouldn't be great for everyone because of that higher dose of potassium. Okay, so that is that. I mean, most women need iron the last 3 to 4 months minimum of their pregnancy. That's when they're going to be producing much larger blood volume, and they need the iron in general. And then also, a lot of women don't know this, but you actually need to take your iron supplement for 3 to 4 months minimum after you give childbirth. So because blood loss and many other things that go along with it. Again, it's just very, very important. Again, this was always known for thousands of years. They had special diets. They ate things like black chicken, which is actually black bones. They ate black rice, very high iron-based food. So keep that in mind. The iron that we recommend is a natural form of iron. It's a great overall product, okay? And that comes with our prenatal package. So I will link up the prenatal package today as well. We'll do a lot of show notes today. It'll be great. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Again, yeah, blackstrap molasses can be great. Higher in sugar, so you're just going to use it with the right person. That's all. And again, you don't need to use a lot. You can just use a teaspoon at a time. Really, really great. And you can mix it with whatever you would like. You can put in a little bit of black coffee. You can honestly put it with whatever you would like. All right, Lindsay's up next. I'm a firm believer of functional medicine and rebalancing the body to heal any disease. My daughter's father was recently diagnosed with severe kidney failure. They're still running tests to see what the next steps should be. 34, on a bunch of medications for high blood pressure, uses over-the-counter pills for migraines, especially Excedrin, follows the standard American diet, a lot of pork, or I should say a lot of dairy, but no pork or red meat. I listen to your podcast on high blood pressure, migraines, histamine foods, etc. Along with all the information, I know that starting him on a detox, elimination of certain foods he currently eats. My thoughts, trying to figure out what triggers the migraines. He's also trying to get more sleep. And her question is, am I on the right track? So my goal is to get him off pharmaceutical drugs and show him that he can balance his high blood pressure naturally. What supplements should be using with kidney failure and stress? What labs would you recommend? Okay, so again, I'm not diagnosing ever, but it's also difficult right over a podcast. So we could do an in-depth consultation, or you can look at this. Like you can look at obviously the foundation. My foundation is this. Someone has high blood pressure and they have migraines. Well, we're looking at potential issues. Obviously, it's inflammatory based, right? But what's causing the inflammation? So we can look at food sensitivities for sure. We can look at nutrient deficiencies. We can look at toxins in general. Those include heavy metals, but they also include all sorts of environmental-based toxins. And yes, histamines can be part of it, but that would be part of an overall gut-based imbalance. What I would like you to do is first run an organic acids test for sure and run a hair tissue mineral analysis. Definitely the organic acids test because you want to see if literally he's spilling candida, bacteria, other proteins into the bloodstream. And if you wanted to run a food sensitivity test, that would be great as well. But you're probably going to get the most benefit as long as his doctor approves. If he's in kidney failure or anything like that, then you can't do a specific Dr. Cabral detox because you want to get your doctor's approval. But what I would recommend is a 21-day Dr. Cabral detox to get a lot of benefit really fast. I would also recommend ginger tea and lots of green juices. No fruit, but lots of green juices to help flush his blood and kidneys. Now, if his kidneys aren't stable, you might need to start with some ginger tea and a lot of green juices and doing a 12 to 14 hour intermittent fast with a lot of water. Just again, flush. No heavy meat-based breakfast. Do the smoothie in the morning, or use the daily nutritional support, or just the full Dr. Cabral daily protocol in the morning is definitely what I recommend. If his kidneys are stable, then you'll move on to the Dr. Cabral detox. And then, of course, you'll find out what's wrong by running an organic acids test and hair tissue mineral analysis. One thing I would also add to that is the omega-3 test. Omega-3 test is hugely overlooked and a very, very powerful lab. I love that lab. I really do. It's amazing because I can show people point blank, hey, your omega-6s to omega-3s is like an 18-to-1 ratio. There's a reason why you've constricted arteries. There's a reason why you might have increased homocysteine or CRP. And that's because of your lack of omega-3s and your increase in omega-6s. Things like leukotrienes and, again, like I said, CRP and prostaglandins are going to be elevated. Okay, so the goal in the long run is to essentially stabilize the body, get rid of the food sensitivities, seal up the gut, do a detox to get rid of everything, get him sleeping well, do the elimination diet, right? It's all of that. But what we can do quickly is, again, as long as he gets his PCP or specialist approval, do that 21-day Dr. Cabral detox. You'll probably see remarkable, meaning like marked improvement at the end of 21 days. And then don't stop. Keep him going with the Dr. Cabral daily protocol every morning to keep the results coming, okay? You're going to find the answer. I know that you are, because I'll tell you, in my practice right now, we really don't allow people to not get better from these things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And again, you're looking at autonomic nervous system-based issues with blood pressure, looking at imbalances between sodium and potassium or calcium and magnesium. You can figure it out. You really can. And if you're working with a doctor right now and they're not able to figure it out, we'll just move on to the next. That's just the bottom line. That's okay. Remember, this is your health. You're in charge of it. Take back control of it. That's what it's all about. And then when you learn it, pass it on to someone else. All right, let's move on to our next question. Okay, our next question is from Jen. Jen is writing in, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. I was recently diagnosed with a mild case of candida. My MD wanted to put me on antibiotics, but I prefer to cure it naturally. As I understand it, candida is fungal and not bacterial, so antibiotics wouldn't work anyway. Is that correct? I wondered if you could recommend a natural way to cure this mild case. I understand certain foods like cold smoothies and salads can add the dampness into the body that I should stick with warm veggies and lean protein. Would that be a recommendation as well? Also, I've heard about accelerated silver and wondered about your thoughts on using it. Any advice is much appreciated and respected. Thank you, Jen." Okay, Jen, you're certainly on the right track, and I don't know if it was a misinterpretation or just a mistake on your MD's part, but you're absolutely correct. An antibiotic, not only would it not work well on a fungus, since it isn't antibacterial, it would actually cause that fungus to actually overgrow. And the reason this works is because one of the main reasons we get candida overgrowth or yeast fungal overgrowth in the first place is because someone takes an antibiotic, and that antibiotic starts to wipe out good bacteria. And that good bacteria then is now missing. So there's placeholders left open in the intestines. And as that happens, the yeast that is there that's unaffected by the antibiotic is allowed to then start to proliferate and grow. So, and not only would an antibiotic not work, it would actually make the case work. If you wanted to use a pharmaceutical drug, which of course I don't use in my practice, but if you wanted to, you could use nystatin or diflucan. But the problem with those is that typically you're given a 1-day or 3-day or maybe a 7-day course of them. Here's the deal though. Colleagues of mine who prefer to use pharmaceuticals will still do 4 to 6 weeks minimum of alternating nystatin and that's a combination of those two, nystatin and diflucan, because you really do have to use it for a longer period of time. The problem is, if you just use a pharmaceutical such as nystatin or diflucan, you will knock down some, and it does work. There's no doubt about that. It does work. It's not the end of the world. Those aren't bad products necessarily to use. But here's the deal. It's not going to dissolve the biofilms, and it's not going to work to reseal the gut wall, and it's not going to work to put the good bacteria or the good yeast back in there. So really, you have two options. You can do the full candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. That absolutely does work. And the reason I can say it works is that for some people, not a lot, but some people choose to retest. And when we retest, we obviously show the levels are back to normal. So everything's good in the world. All right. But the other thing is this, if it's just a mild case, but a mild case of candida means this: you have no bloating, you have no gas, you have no skin issues, you have no brain fog, none of that stuff, right? None of those issues, no autoimmune. Okay. But it shows up on your test. That would be considered then a mild, right? It's lower levels. Okay. For that, you could use a product called our Clean Gut Probiotic, as well as our Healthy Gut Support. The Clean Gut Probiotic is a special probiotic that we have formulated, that I formulated to include, that has Saccharomyces boulardii. That Saccharomyces boulardii is a non-pathogenic, beneficial yeast that actually pushes out negative forms of yeast, okay? Other types of pathogenic yeast, all right? And then the Healthy Gut Support helps to seal up that gut wall to not allow proteins or other things like that to spill out. So hopefully that helps. Accelerated silver, I'm not sure if you mean or if that's the same thing as colloidal silver, but colloidal silver can certainly work as well. Works probably even a little bit better on things like H. pylori in the stomach and bacteria, but could certainly work as an antimicrobial, could certainly work as an antifungal, but certainly wouldn't be my first choice. And again, I would use what I just recommended, one of those two go-aheads. I don't know if that's the right word there, but I'm going to link up today the Clean Gut Probiotic, and I'm also going to link up the Healthy Gut Support, plus the Candida and Bacterial Overgrowth Protocol, also called the CBO Protocol for short. All right, so hopefully that answers your question. Now, next up is Mary. Mary's asking, hello, I use your daily nutritional support shake and fruit and vegetable blend, and have also used the Dr. Cabral Detox you offer. I perceive that I'm getting great health benefits from all these products and have gotten several friends and family members hooked as well. I also listen to your podcast and find it very valuable and educating. Thank you for all you do. Could you explain your thoughts on the fat of low lectin and low oxalate diets and how this plays into your suggestion of having a predominantly plant-based diet? I would also like to know your thoughts on the Ayurvedic perspective of regular green smoothies being aggravating on the physiology of many people, as they can be hard to digest. I presume this is due to the high fiber content and maybe the possible effects of lectins and oxalates on the immune system. Thank you for your time. All right, this is a great question. It's coming up quite often. I do need to do a show on this, I know, and I will. I'll be doing a whole review of the plant paradox and low lectin diets, all this type of stuff that we see now in the mainstream media. But here's the short of it. I'm going to give you the science behind it, but I'm going to give you the short answer right now, is that a low lectin or low oxalate or low salicylate or low nightshade or low anything is for a tiny percent of the population, meaning like 1% of the population might need low oxalate, 1% might need low lectin, 1% might need low nightshade. Like that is that small. It's that small. And because I can take that from and extrapolate the data from 250,000 client appointments that we've had, not all nutrition, I know that, but still like a very large amount. And a small population needs this. Very, very few people though. So if you're eliminating things like tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, and you don't need to, well, you're missing out on the lycopene. You're missing out on all the powerful antioxidants. And you're missing out on eating things like spinach, if you're worried about oxalates, or blueberries. Like these are things that most people never need to worry about. Because the truth is that the real problem is they have gut issues, and the villi are blunted down, or they are literally worn out in certain places. And that actually happens. So it's called blunted villi. And there are crypts. There are actual spaces where the villi also used to live. So what we get then is additional inflammation. We also have intestinal permeability. We might have things like oxalates, which a lot of people don't even know, but oxalates can actually be formed by candida. So when we run an organic acid test, we're actually looking at 3 forms of oxalates. And if you have high oxalic acid, sure, it could be from chocolate or blueberries or spinach or beets. But the truth is that a lot of times it's from high candida levels. So what do we really need to do? What we need to do is run an organic acids test and run a stool test. If those look good and you still have issues with them, well, then it might be worth considering. But for the most part, we run an organic acids test. People have, maybe they have candida overgrowth, they have C. diff, they have H. pylori, or they have whatever going on, right? A parasite on the stool test. Okay, we eliminate those. We go about refeeding the villi so they can rebuild on their own. We seal up the gut wall. Again, we give your body the nutrients so that it can do it on its own. And then all these things like allergies, because essentially lectins are like an allergy to the body, and I'll explain that on a future show, there's no longer that level of inflammation. So what happens is when you are someone who's maybe a little bit more Th2 or Th1 sensitive, this can affect the immune system to a greater degree. But how do we desensitize the body in a good way? How do we regulate it or modulate it in a better way? Well, it's to fix whatever these underlying inflammatory based issues are in the first place. So that's I don't know if that's a short answer, but that's certainly the fix. And then yes, for a small percentage of population, and I will talk about that, low lectins make sense. But for the most part, you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it in the beginning. There's too much to worry about. That's not important at all. You get on a plan, and if 6 to 12 weeks later, you haven't made remarkable results, then you could start to look at those things, but definitely not in the beginning. All right. Unless you just know. The other thing about smoothies is that almost no one reacts to smoothies. Like almost no one has an issue with it. If you're talking about like eat greens, like heavy kale, well, that's not something that I recommend in my smoothies in the first place. I'm talking about, for the most part, they're berries and then the all-in-one powder and then some water. And then after that work, we just make sure, okay, put in blueberries, use your all-in-one powder and use water, or use a little half almond milk, half water, half coconut milk, half water, the unsweetened kind, whatever you want. Okay. If that works, great. The next thing we do is then we do a test. We keep that same smoothie and we add in then, let's say, a cup of greens, okay, like spinach. And then you drink that. And now if you have digestive issues, well, you know it wasn't the blueberries, the water, almond milk, whatever it might be, or the all-in-one powder, because you only added one new variable. This is how we figure things out. I would absolutely tune back into a show called How to Create a Rotation Diet. That was episode 754. Please check out that show, StephenCabral.com/754. This is how you can figure out what foods cause you aggravation. Because the truth is that if we don't have a smoothie in the morning, what are we doing? It's always my question, like, what are you doing then for breakfast? Are you skipping it? Well, probably a bad idea if you're a Vata body type or if you're a go kind of person. If you're used to having muffins or cereal, or that's processed food, I don't really want that for you. If you have eggs and bacon and heavy foods, well, hopefully you listen to episode 761, which was one of my favorite shows, the fat and toxic flushing breakfast recipe, because you know that those are not human things that we should be adding in. That was like over the last 100 years. So it's kind of like asking, what should you do? So I would say is, I'm Ayurvedic through and through. So I say for the Vata body type, especially during the winter or even the Kapha with a cold stomach, is that we're going to add in ginger to the smoothie, right? So we're going to add in heat. You can even add in cayenne, because you could say, okay, well, then you shouldn't juice during the winter. You shouldn't do smoothies during the winter. And truthfully, you should just be eating heavy, fatty, acidic-based foods, because that's going to keep you warm. Like that would be a true Ayurvedic thing. But that doesn't mean it's the healthiest for you. It just means it's more seasonal. But we can get around that. But again, doing ginger tea, or what I do during the winter, I have a hot bowl of oatmeal. Again, oats work for me. They might not work for you, but they work for me. And then I have my smoothie along with that. I get the warmth of the oats. I get ginger in my smoothie if I decide to put that in, or pineapple. Pineapple's not heating, but technically it is, but not as heating as the ginger. And that can work great as well. And then, fiber is also dose dependent. So I don't think we can get too caught up with that, because 5 grams of fiber might work great for some person, but 2 cups of greens might not. So you always define like, okay, does the blueberries, the spinach, the water, almond milk, the all-in-one, which I essentially call my purple crush smoothie. And again, you could just go to StephenCabral.com/764 for today's show notes. If you scroll to the bottom, you're going to see a little graphic for our free smoothies. Download the free smoothie guide. You get to check them all out. And then you can kind of make them for yourself, but you can always test one thing at a time. And essentially what I'm saying is, one of the healthiest things you can do in life is eat things that are high in antioxidants. Really, the only foods that are high in antioxidants, for the most part, again, not all of them, but for the most part, are fruits and vegetables. Try to stick to lower glycemic fruits for the most part. If it ends in berry, cherry, your kiwis, you're pretty much safe, all right? So that's the thing, is like those things are all anti-cancer. I can't get too deep in this right now because I know we're going time-wise, but the truth is that there's no research that a keto diet prevents cancer. There is research that lower processed foods when you have cancer certainly helps, okay? But we know some diets do help to prevent and stave off cancer, and that would be a higher produce plant-based diet. Even the Mayo Clinic, one of the best places in the entire world for cancer-based therapy, Dana-Farber and the Mayo Clinic right here in Boston, are now recommending green juices, green smoothies. So when conventional medicine is convinced, believe me, there's so much truth behind it, and there's so much research behind this as well. So hopefully that helps. Thank you everyone today, as always, for tuning into the Cabral Concept. Truly appreciate your listens, and please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could help. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.